Juan.
Juan. We set the roof on fire. We set the roof on fire. Hey, hey.
What's going on, everybody? What episode are we on?
What
31? Something like
30 third what do we be Trisanta Uno Trenta Uno.
what is Trenta? That's
Is it?
30?
I think Trenta means 30. Yeah, because Vente means 20.
I took 2 years of Spanish and I don't even know that. I was
I don't
just more
know.
of a, it
Quad
was one of those
quai
classes you just take.
Quatre. I'm trying to remember it all, man. Mrs. Estrada, if you're out there, Mrs. Estrada Nevins, sorry you got married. Mrs. Estrada Nevins, if you're out there somewhere, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry.
You failed. It's like,
Yeah.
you failed as a
Yes.
teacher because damn no.
Yo muy estupido.
Mine was Mrs. George, which was, this is interesting. Ours was Mrs. George, which she was the husband, I mean, the wife, I said husband, the wife of our rival school's football.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, it
Okay.
used to get fun in Spanish class because cause she didn't have no qualms about it, but she would support her school and she would be like, we're going to beat my husband and all
You're
that.
like
But they would
saying
smash us.
the cussing them out in Spanish and stuff, like you know what I
Yeah.
mean. But like
So
that's
shout
between
out
us
to Mrs.
chicos.
George for school spirit.
Yeah. Um, it's funny is Mrs. George sounds like it just doesn't sound like a Spanish teacher name. You know, ours was
Jorge, Mrs. Jorge.
was Jorge. Yeah, that makes it sound better. We had said Estrada Nevins. That's just Estrada. It was Estrada when we first came. Then she got married. But Estrada, she's from Peru. And then you know what's funny is we had another. When I was young, I lived in state college. I had another Spanish teacher. Her last name was Molinex. Tell me that doesn't sound like the most like European name you ever heard of in your life. But she was from Spain. Like she married a guy who was like from Europe. So like
Hmm.
when you heard Molinex, it just sounded like something you'd hear like I don't know, like a Polish person having their name like Molinex. Sounds like Mucinex. Like her last name was like about like a cold medicine or some shit.
Yeah, you got. I mean, you definitely should probably have a Spanish teacher speech teaching Spanish. I don't know. That's just wild to me. But I guess. But Mrs. George was good. She would roll her. She would come in dressed. I mean, it was crazy. She made it fun. But I didn't learn nothing because I wasn't trying to learn Spanish.
I wasn't trying to. I didn't learn nothing because I wasn't actually trying to learn anything.
I can
You know.
count to 10.
Oh really? I want a challenge right now. Go ahead. Let's see it. Count to 10.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, siete,
Us.
ocho, nueve. What's 10? I forgot 10. So I can count to nine.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, you forgot. You forgot. It was uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho,
Nueve.
nueve, and diez.
Diez. Yeah, diez.
Diez.
So
Diez.
we're not doing this with subtitles in Spanish. We're just trying to refresh our
We're
high school
Spanish.
memories.
We're trying to refresh the vocab.
So
This.
no offense. We know the climate now today. No offense to our Spanish people. There's a couple people out here that aren't here Spanish. So no offense to y'all.
Yeah. So I was singing. We set the roof on fire when we
Hmm.
started this thing because I was thinking about the church, the Notre Dame church there, Catholic church up in Paris has basically hasn't burnt down per se, but the whole I mean it's burnt. All the wood and everything's toast in there. It's not looking good. They're probably gonna have to knock it down. You know.
Yeah, and it's all over. My point where that would come to it. They said like from what I heard, it was just like they were doing renovations and an accident happened.
Hmm.
What they're saying, but we don't. You know what I mean? We'll
It's such a
never.
weird accident. You're like, all right, we're working on this. We're working on this ancient church, and then you caught on fire. Well, that's one hell. That's not a way to renovate. Whoever's trying to renovate your place, man, they messed up. The point is to fix the building, not burn it down.
Yeah, they made it came across some difficulties with somebody was sniffing paint remover or something and
Something
spilled something. You know what I mean?
they were smoking something.
Construction sites are dangerous, bro. I work construction and they are one of the most dangerous places to work. I'm surprised there's not more deaths in there. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's dangerous. There's so
Dang.
much things happening at one time, and you like you got the drywallers, or you got you got people doing the floors, and you got people. Now each person is just strictly focused on their part, so they're not thinking about nobody else's job. It's not like it's mostly subcontract companies, so already you guys are looking at each other's like competition. Like you guys are gonna either do a dance off or like line up and play football or something. I don't know. It's a competition type thing. So you're focused on you and your company's safety and what you're accountable for, and you don't give a shit about anybody else. So if a bucket falls off over the roof in your house,
Yeah, yeah, but what I was thinking about is this, because even though it burnt down, they're probably gonna try and rebuild or salvage or whatever it is of that building, and they're gonna spend a crap ton of. I'm assuming it's government-owned building, so I'm assuming they're gonna pay taxpayer money over in Paris, French people's money to rebuild that building. And part of me's thinking, man, just let it go and build something else. If it comes to that, I don't know how extensive the damage really is, but if it can't be salvaged, they gotta destroy the thing or whatever, right? Because it's just condemned. You can't fix it. It's a wrap. Just tear the thing down and build something worth a damn in the community. You know what I mean? I know it's a nice tourist trap thing, brings in revenue and money, but
it's history though, bro.
yeah, it
Those
is
things
history.
are those things
But
are
now
like government like they're gonna put that up. They're
it
gonna do
is history.
whatever they can do.
It's history, but it's also history. If it's gone, it's gone. Do you know what I mean? I'm saying, like, if it's burnt down, if it's history, then it's history. Like, put a memorial there or something. I don't know, but let the thing be and put something more. I don't know. Put something there.
Yeah, it doesn't to me like the outrage of it is like I've seen it all over. Um, I mean, like soon as it happened, like how everybody's like our prayers and everything. I've seen it happen. Like as soon as it happened, it was all over my timeline. That's the point that I'm getting at, which would probably like, were you done discussing the church burning?
Was I done discussing it?
Yeah.
No, well, that's all I wanted to say was just like I mean, like if it's done, just tear it down. Don't spend all this absurd amount of money trying to recreate this building again, because like just be like you have pictures of it, people have seen it, just say hey, like now this is a piece of history. There's so many things in history. The majority of everything that happened in the past we don't know about half the time, or we don't have record of it anymore. All the things that are built or whatever that don't stand the test of time. So it's one of those deals where I feel like you just let it go if it's done. History's now history. Build something there that's nice, does something for the community. Don't spend millions of dollars to rebuild a structure for tourism. Then to I don't know. That's all I was saying. Build something worth a damn.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that's up to France. That's their
Yeah,
that's their
yeah. As I'm
people
saying,
and
that's up to
their
them.
issue. It doesn't affect me and my tax paying. So I would
Yeah.
imagine it affects a lot of people for religious and I don't know what it exactly it was, but I know it's got to be some kind of monument. And Notre Dame is a pretty big name in that thing. So I'm pretty sure it means a lot to a lot of people, but it's France's problem. They got to
It's
figure out what they're gonna
it's a
do.
France problem.
It's
They can't.
France's problem.
What were you
But
gonna say?
in saying that though, like what I was getting at was like when I found out about that church burning, it was all over my timeline. Like I'm like, okay, well that's pretty messed up. I hope nobody got hurt, but I seen the flood of it and I'm like, wait a minute, this I get it. It's in Paris. It's in France though. So it goes into another subject that we were talking about burning churches that somebody was doing deliberately here in the United States in Louisiana for a couple years now. I think he had a total of like I'm not sure how many he had a total of, but I think it was three, but they couldn't figure it out and they finally caught the guy. I had his name written down somewhere, but I forgot it. So if anybody knows, you know what to do. Post it somewhere. But I got the overview of it. He was the son of a of a
Sheriff.
sheriff. Yeah. And what I was getting at was all the something that happened in Paris like that got flooded all over the timeline, but this went under the radar for a while. Like it's no big outrage, and it just shows you like how the media works. It shows you how it influences is like for instance, like if you're on Facebook, do you ever notice like if a person likes your thing, who depending on who that person is, they could bring 4 or 5 other people liking it just because that person liked it.
Yeah.
So they might not even be, even read the post, but they're just saying, "Oh, he or she liked it. Oh, I gotta like it." So that's how the media is working like now. So a lot of people, maybe one site that everybody gets their stuff, posts something, and somebody says, "Oh, they posted it. I have to share this," and probably don't even know the significance of it, any history or anything about it, just because it was shared by that post or by that page or by that person or whatever. And it just bugs me out because this has happened in the United States and it's down south. This has been a problem that's been going on for years, that people are burning black churches down there, bro. And it doesn't get the coverage that I think
So
that people would want to be like, yo, that's terrorism right there. Even though I'm not a big church person, I'm not, but to me, I don't see church as anything that is affecting anybody in that manner. If you want to believe that, that's okay with you. But to think about like going to a church and say I'm gonna burn it down, it's just that's wacky, bro.
yeah. Well, um, where would I start unpacking it? So he was burning down black churches. Like he was burning down churches because they were mostly black people attending that church.
Yes.
Okay, so that already is just like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is the South, so I guess that kind of makes sense. So there. I mean, this guy's probably motivations was that he was probably also religious, and he was like, well, these black folk, they can't be closer to God or whatever because we're white folk. I'm not sure what the reasoning is. I'm spitballing at this point. Um,
Yeah, we don't know. It can't be. I mean, it's all hate, bro. It's just
yeah,
all hate. And they figure that's the best way to make a message, to put a message out.
yeah, you can't go to church.
Right. We're gonna burn your church down, signifying what was done back in the civil rights years, and burning cross, because you can't just burn a cross in your front yard no more without that. So there, what's the next thing to do?
Yeah,
Let's
well, I mean,
burn
white
down a church.
supremacy. I mean, has some, a good part of it to do with Christianity and stuff. I mean, that's why they have the burning of the cross and stuff and things like that. So when you have that kind of belief system, and especially they go to burn down churches, it definitely signifies something, especially the hatred towards other races. Um,
Right.
which we had to talk about that shooter who, like I said, his beliefs were like that he didn't care that other races existed. He just wanted them all in their respective countries, which is kind of weird. But to me, churches are kind of like Sheetses, because a lot of people don't think churches are businesses, but they really are. And because that's why there's one everywhere you go. You can't go in a town without there being a church. You know, you can find liquor free counties, but you can't find church free counties. And
Yeah, it's one of those things that people don't want to touch, you
yeah,
know?
right.
They built it up like that, like you even the government, like we talked about that with the priest. Even the government is like, I'm sure they have all kinds of things that come across their desk where they could go after church, but they don't because of the backlash
Yeah,
from it.
but it wouldn't just be the backlash though. It's because churches, especially those big churches with like all the preachers and stuff, they send tons and tons of money to politicians, tons of money.
Oh
They're,
yeah,
they're
they
lobbying and
need
they
that vote.
yeah, they're like, oh hey, by the way, protect us. here and here, and our practices, and look the other way for any fraudulent things we might do. With our tax statuses and everything else, all the money we take, where we put it, look the other way, because
Yeah, and I think like these churches are smaller churches though.
yeah,
They're
right.
not they're not
They're
big
not the
money
big. They're
makers.
not the big. Yeah, they're not the big churches that make money. But I'm saying like I don't know. I see people open up churches. Like part of me finds it hard to believe that it's for the just it's always for the goodness of the people in the religion. Sometimes I have, because when the guy thinks, hey, let's open up a church, it's like, well, the financial aspect has to pay for itself. So how do we do that? Well, we're gonna ask people to pay for it. The people coming here to worship and stuff like that. So like to me, like I said, every church to me is a business. I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
everything's
it's
kind of like a
definitely
business,
business.
but
It's
it's a business.
definitely they're 501c3s and tax exempt.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, to me, it's like a
And
sheets.
that's that. What's that?
It's like sheets around here. Like they just throw one up so they can like, well, we'll get somebody in this area. That's why they have all the churches like in random towns and stuff around. Because they're just like, oh yeah, we'll get somebody from this area to come in and come buy from us. And oh, it's like, oh man, I need to start going to church. Oh, there's one down the street. I'll go to this one.
Yeah, it's definitely church and liquor stores. On every corner, especially in the inner cities, because either one, which one are you going to choose? Like we talked about with the with the drugs and the rehabs, why farmers got a monopoly on that. That's what churches are saying. Okay, well, we'll just watch you go into the bars and destroy your life, and then when you finally get sober, you can come over here.
whenever you clean up your stuff, you can come over. But like until then, we'll watch the self destruction from over here on our porch.
From over here. Well, they'll say nice things to you, try to get you, it is what it is. To me, I just don't look at like those things. It's just not in my belief system. But I don't knock nobody who does. Do what you do. The people that like we're saying, the business ones, like you got people like a Joel Osteen or Creflo
Bobby Tilton.
Dollars that are driving around in flying around in G6s. That's just ridiculous,
or
bro.
like or like they're mad because they can't get the donation for the other jet they need to go to. I saw that one. I'll have to, because they did a thing about televangelism the on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and it was just
Hmm.
funny because like one of these families was like all up in arms because they're like, well, we can't get our other jet that we need. We already have a jet, but we need another one. It's like, oh my goodness, give me a break. So we can take our faith ministries over to Africa or whatever it is.
And it brings like it mixing the hate with it and the 50 in the business of it. There was a post going around, and I did some research. I seen it a while ago, but it resurfaced about the KKK being tax exempt. What I found in my research is that's not true, but there is a lot of what would we call them, white nationalist groups or
White, well, it depends. White nationalists would be like that guy that was like the shooter.
uh,
They don't care other races exist, but they believe that all the nations should be where they resided from. So like black people should live in Africa, and European people should stay in Europe, and the Americans should stay here. Even though I think that's kind of the funniest hypocritical thing ever, because there was the Indians that lived here, and way before us.
yeah, that's just as crazy. Well, yeah. So, but there's a lot of those, which, I guess, I don't know, white supremacy things too, that are tax exempt. They are fighting a lot of these people's exempt them, saying, why are they getting tax exempt to be division, to divide people? And even if they're not out bombing and church or burning down churches, but their message is divisive to the country, why should they be tax exempt? Which I'm kind of like, yeah, there should be some kind of guidelines on that. But you can, like, your idea, I won't put it out there unless you want to. You can do that. There's not going to be no pushback from that. I can open up a 501c3 for anything, and I will get the paperwork and the okay, if as long as you follow the application process. It's not like there's um, a board or something that says, uh, no, we're not gonna let this have like they're
So
choosing so many.
I am curious. So like for nonprofits, are all nonprofits tax exempt?
Yeah. If you get the 501c3, you
Hmm.
get that paperwork and fill it out, and you get sent back. You're 501c3. Now the issue with the 501c3 is they try to encourage you. Like that's what I do with the programs I run. I try to partner with a already built 501c3. You try to partner with them that does the same thing because you're just flooding the market with 501c3s, and both of you guys can work together and combine it and make a bigger
Thing.
you know what I mean? Already has the format down, already has, they're up and running. You try to do work with people that are already that instead of flooding the market with a bunch of like
Little ones.
dead podcasts. You're gonna have a
Yeah.
lot of dead 501c3s.
C3s. Yeah, just like we talked about with a couple of people you're digging your way out of the flood of podcasts because how many people decided they're going to start a podcast and then they do 2 episodes and they're done and they
Right.
never make another episode and then you have to dig your way to relevance above all these dead podcasts that are screaming and then or the startup ones where everybody's like, oh yeah, watch us, and then that's not the case. But yeah, you were talking. I was talking about the idea of starting like a non-secular nonprofit or a secular nonprofit, not a non-secular. I don't know what that just non-secular would be like stupid. No, like literally, I think that's what that would mean. It would be a stupid nonprofit. But
What?
a secular nonprofit, which is it would be like no religious affiliations. But from what I understand, a lot of the secular uh, groups they do pay taxes and stuff. I don't know if they set it up as a nonprofit or what it is, but they set up these groups and stuff because this is just some things I was doing research on. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of some of them are fighting. Some of them are fighting like the atheist and secular groups are fighting that churches no longer have the tax exempt status.
Why?
Because they
Are they
don't
saying they can't have it?
the churches they don't want churches to have the tax exempt status just like they don't want to have the tax exempt status because like we do what was I going to say like if you do a nonprofit because your nonprofit has to have some kind of basis and like it has to benefit the community in some way, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're trying to get that tax exempt status, and they're saying like, well, for the religious aspects, I won't go into all the details, and I'm not really exactly sure what the reasoning is, but they won't want churches to have the tax exempt status.
I think that's like they're wasting their time. Why wouldn't they focus on that more on their message and what they're trying to do than waste their time? That sounds like the Trump
It's a
scenario
different. It's a
syndrome,
different.
like Obama, Obama, Obama.
Uh, no. But the thing is, there's different groups, right? Like
Uh-huh.
the one I'm talking about in particular is it's a group for lawyers. They fight for religious freedoms and but also like secular freedoms. Like they try to make sure the separation between church and state stays there. They have like these like literally dedicated lawyers they pay to do that, and they want to get rid of tax exempt status. And like I said, I can't remember off the top of my head what the exact reasoning is. I'm gonna assume something to have to do with the fact that they want those because they get this special status because they're religious, or their religious beliefs or whatever. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
that sounds like that they're just counterproductive, just hateful. Because I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if it was, I would focus my energy. Like if I'm doing something in youth development and somebody across from me, as long as it's not abusive, they're saying your kid has to go to school. I focus more on entrepreneurial, like teaching kids their options. I'm not gonna like waste energy and time on doing that. I'm gonna focus on that. And 501c3s, you don't have to be a 501c3. You
Mm.
you could be for a profit church if you want to. You know what I mean? You could be a for profit. Anything that you do could be for profit. The reasoning behind the 501c3 is because you'll be it's to me it's another one of those it's probably half, but it's the second thing up the line, I think, to where the government won't touch until you make that mistake, then they're gonna go after you. They too much don't bother 501c3s. If your paperwork looks right, we just had a case in Erie. This lady who's on the city council, she had a 501c3. She was running a youth program that was actually doing some work with the program that I was in, and she got caught up by using funds for her own personal use, and now she is on trial by the feds. There was so many counts of her going to the casino, drawing money out of the 501c3 and putting it in her personal account and stuff like that, because people do that. And
They
there's no
pocket
way,
money.
yeah, there's no way to really, because like if you started your 501c3, Dev, you the only limit, like say you got like 1,000 people and you were pulling in grants and money was coming in. Now there is no limit to, the only limit on it is what you could pay yourself. You could actually pay yourself what makes sense. There's no limit. It just can't be like if you brought in $1 million, you paid yourself $900,000. It would have to be like if you brought in
Pay
$1 million,
yourself a
you,
hundred.
yeah, and you give yourself, like, you could give yourself 250, no problem, depending on how much work you're doing. I think you pay yourself fair. I've been in situations where I've got grants and I paid myself fair. Everybody, I sat down with mentors and everything, and they said, well, what have you done to do all this stuff? And then they said, this is what is fair for you to get paid for, and that's what I got. So when they run down it, they be like, "Oh, Dev paid him 250,000 out of the million that he put out into the community. No problem."
Mm. Okay. So I kind of lost the train of thought of why we started down the conversation in the first place for the talking about the church exempt status. I think we're talking about the guy burning down the churches,
Oh
and
yeah,
we were talking about like like what is a church and our church's businesses, and yeah, you know what I mean. Like I just yeah, I agree that churches are businesses. That's just my thing. And as for burning down churches for your whatever racial bias or whatever the hell it is that you got going on, like that's just stupid and it's wrong. Unless like you're just burning down a church that's like old and like maybe you're gonna burn it down so that way someone can build something nice there. But other than that,
yeah, you can't do it. It's just something you got to stay away from. There's no need for that. Find a way to, a different way to fight your battle. To me, that's just kind of like weakness. But the main point of the whole conversation is basically, why is that getting like, okay, I get it. You got the church in Paris, but as soon as it hit, bam, it was all over the timeline. This been going on. This kid been getting caught. Now, R.I.P. to Nipsey and all that, but Nipsey had the timeline. He had the coverage of last week, but this came where he got arrested during that, and he wasn't able. The news didn't break that out. Like, oh my God, because that's crazy. Like, your dad's a sheriff. You're you're down here burning down churches. Like, I don't know. I don't know the whole story. I guess I would have to find it. But if I was my job was a police officer, I would kind of, want to know. I would know if something was off with my kid. Like, what do like what are you doing weird? I'm pretty sure you can hide it, but as being a cop out for so long, you would pick up on things. I would think what that would make you be like, not saying thinking in your head, oh, this kid's doing something crazy, but to have a conversation, and then that conversation would turn into, I know my kid, I know what I do in police work. He's hiding something. I need to find out what it is.
yeah. Well, I don't know. It's one of those things where, as a police officer, yeah, I mean, as a police officer, dad, I think you would know. I think so. You would have to know something was going on, especially burning churches. But now, that brings up another good point. Was he burning these churches while the people were still in them, trying to burn them
No,
down
no.
that way? No, no. So it was like a nighttime,
Yeah.
arson kind of deals. Yeah, it's. I don't know. I don't know if you would be able to figure out right away that it was your son, because I think maybe in that scenario, as a sheriff or something, in the back of your head, you would be thinking, "Oh, not my boy. Oh, not my daughter."
Yeah, I
Because you're
get
in
it.
that position. Yeah, because I just because I don't know, like I know from like experience with like some of the suburban parents I've met and stuff, you know, they always like to be like, oh, that won't be my son, oh, that won't be my daughter, and then when it is, even whenever they know that it is, they have some
A lot
trouble.
of
They have some
denial.
denial that they don't want to accept it, even though they're looking it right in the face. They got evidence. A cop comes over and says, yeah, your boy was smoking the marijuana, and they're like, no, he wasn't. He's our, you know,
I know my kid.
he's a good
He
little
doesn't
boy.
smoke the reefer.
He doesn't smoke the devil's lettuce. And you're like,
Hey,
oh,
I
we
mean, I
got
think
him.
everybody's like that. I'm a protective of mine, but I'm not dumb to not sit and be like, listen, and then get the information, and then go back and know that what this person is saying, that I'm surprised, and I'm like, and get the answer out of him, to be like, either you're lying, where I wouldn't know that he's lying, or he's going to admit it, and then I would be like, holy, how did not know that you were doing something crazy like this, you know?
How did I
So
not know that you're out here burning
burning,
churches?
burning fucking churches,
Churches
and
and
I'm a
roasting hot
sheriff.
dogs over them.
And I'm a sheriff. I mean, it's something that's been happening for years, and I think it pops up like every couple years, bro. This is like a normal activity down south that pops up. You'll get somebody like this, like the church shootings and the school shootings. Something just, I don't know what it is. I think it's more of a larger group of people that find that person, and then they just push the buttons without saying anything, like, you're representing us or come be a part of our group. They have that, like, some of them.
Make
I'm
him
not
like
gonna
the
say,
errand boy, the lackey boy. You know, like they get a guy like, yeah, you can be part of our club or whatever. And he's like,
or
what's a
not. I
club?
don't even think they go that far. I just think they make the plan, they find the mark, and then they send a couple of people of his peers that he's around without even revealing who they are, and say, go do it, and
Do it.
push those
Snowballs.
buttons. So it can't be traced back to anything, but they can go back and jerk off to the videos and high five.
There's
You know
just
what
a
I'm saying?
weird part of me who just thinks about like just like there's like a church burning and there's some guy going like, oh my god,
There's,
yeah, like
there's
in the
circle
background.
jerk.
What's that?
They're circle jerking about, like, because they, you got to be pretty coward to do stuff like that. That's just my opinion. You got to be coward as
To
fuck
burn down a
to do
church.
something, with that much hate. You have that much hate and that much belief in what you're feeling, that you're not out there rumbling in the street about it. You're you're sneaking in the shadows.
Yeah, well, I mean, probably because these people they have to exist in the shadows now because you know most of us aren't racist. You know, well, at least to the degree where like we actually hate people. You know, like we hate people of different races and stuff. And you know, the minute those people would be out in the open, you think that a lot of people would come down on them. So they have to use these deceptive, sneaky tactics and work in the shadows because you know and thing is like we've talked about, you know, those people still exist and they're out there, they just are really good at hiding it now,
Oh
just
yeah,
really good at
that
hiding
was
it.
the purpose of the sheets, because they were your doctors, your congressmen, your police officers, and times, and still are. They still are. Like you said, they got to hide in the shadows because more people are saying that shit's not acceptable no more.
Right. You know,
And
hey,
they, huh?
possible a possible possible one of those, you know what I'm talking about, one of those maybe the father was part of the
He had a 501c3 and white supremacy.
yeah, I guess. No, I'm not saying I'm not saying a 50. I'm just saying maybe he's a
Saying
part of
it.
one of those
I'm
groups, man.
saying it.
Oh, he's got a 50.
Because if you do the history, bro, and it's not that far off, it's not that far ago
No, it wasn't.
that this stuff was happening legally.
Right.
It's not that far ago. It was in the 60s,
Yeah.
1960s. So it's not that far ago. We're talking, I know you're younger, you haven't lived abroad, but It's really not. We're not talking like the 1800s or anything.
We're not talking
you
like
know what I
people walked out with revolvers, like the black powder revolvers and shot each other, or
Yeah, you got to
pistols.
reload. You got to stuff
Stuff the
something
shit
into
down. We're not
re.
talking about that. We're talking like this just happened back when people were driving cars and shit like that. Like that's what we're really talking about.
So it resurfaces, and it's just curious to me, like what we were saying that you theory that you like the media has. That's why we always say, man, we say on here is to do that research yourself because people are so. I had a conversation with I'm starting the youth development up here, and the person is so molded in their brain that we were talking with, that I was having this conversation with, that they think that everything that's taught in the school is fact, that's all they need to know to get along in this world and program and that type stuff. But I'm saying to them, like, what is wrong with teaching your 5-year old, or as they growing up, financial literacy?
There's
Like,
nothing wrong with that.
yeah, why you ain't teaching that in school? You need to know that. You know what I'm saying? So his mind was so stuck in that he didn't want to hear anything else. And I was just like, that person, I'm not going to sit and waste my time. I wasn't angry or anything. I was like, this person will never see the plus of having, because we want to reinforce education. If you want to get an education, just know what you're getting into. That's it.
Yeah, really. That's all. And I was actually having a good conversation with my stepmom just last night about because she used to work for education. Not saying names. We'll never say names, but we were just
Put
talking
them on
about.
blast.
No, 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 no. It's because you can't
I know.
do that stuff. You can't
Yeah.
say it when they're teaching or whatever. But and she just said about standardized testing. As from a teacher's perspective, it's just such bullshit because you
It's to
can't
get their head count.
yeah, really. Well, the thing is, like, the teachers are then just they're not really trying to educate the kids a whole lot. It's more like they're just working to get them to know the things they need to know for this test because those tests dedicate what schools get the funding.
And
You know
that's
what I,
crazy.
yeah,
Like, I don't see like there is any question. Like, I don't see why there's any questioning on, because that was the conversation we had too. Because my thing, I was saying to reinforce what you guys are saying and just adding more to make them research more stuff, because you guys don't have the funding.
hmm
You don't. You don't have the funding per kid. Think about that. A teacher with 30 plus kids in the classroom, who's getting going to get the attentions? Not the ones that really need it. The ones that are, uh,
excelling.
yeah, that are excelling. They're going to enforce everything and do all their time management resources on them, and those other ones slip through the crack, and that's sad.
Yeah, you know
That's
what? But
sad.
it's
Our
sadder than
country's.
that is when you have a system where it just reinforces regurgitation of information.
Mhm.
You where's critical thinking? Where do you get critical thinking skills, like thinking outside the box about things? Do you know what I mean? I mean, sure, in school in school classes, you'd have questions in your book that say critical thinking. Think about it this, and it's like, but
Right.
where is it? Where are you really getting those critical thinking skills? Where do you get the idea, the way to ask questions about things to learn more? To be like, well, how do I know this is true, or how do I know that? Because, like I said, you're just like, here's information, you need to learn it, and it's like, and like, I'm not saying things in textbooks are like all wrong all the time or anything, but I'm saying, like, where do you get the skepticism from, where you ask questions about certain things and ask bigger questions so someday you can solve those issues.
Right. Yeah, you definitely need those things, and I think it's like a joint effort with it. But everything is so messed up nowadays, where you know parents got to work. You got a lot of single parents, single mothers with multiple kids that don't have the time to reinforce what the school's saying. So in their brain, I have conversations like this, Dev. You'll be surprised how many conversations I have with parents that say, that I've had in all my years in dealing with youth, like where they just expect that that's your job to do. I shouldn't have to do that. That's why I send them here. And that's crazy. That is a crazy thought. And it's not, I'm not saying that every parent is intention is like, oh, it's just a babysitting, blah, blah, blah. But they're working. They have to go work 2, 3 jobs, and then their brain, it trained their brain just to make ends meet to get meals, and it trained their brain of generations of doing that. Like, to a parent is saying, "Oh, when I send them to school, you're supposed to teach them everything they need to know to survive in life."
Yeah, that's a terrible thing, you know, to put your trust in, is those systems, and be like, well, I don't have to teach my kids anything because the school system will teach them anything. But you know, me and you have said time and time again, we think the education system fails. And what my stepmom had said to me the other day made my skin crawl. You know, they got third graders now taking science PSSAs. You know, like how is that going to be an indicator of how intelligent or smart your child is going to be at all? You know, like whenever they're in the third grade and you have those retention tests and stuff like that. And all that is just, so like I said, they can check the boxes that say this school's teaching their kids this and they get the funding. It sickens me and saddens me. And what the system reinforces, and this is what she was telling me, the system reinforces that the bigger schools get richer, get more money, and the smaller schools suffer because
Get raped.
yeah.
Get the old. Let me not say that. Hold on, that's a bad thing to
Get
say about
raped.
schools.
All right, hold on, just a minute there. Yeah.
I gotta remember that I gotta use certain words for certain situations. But yeah, you're right. And just like, let's think about this. When you were in school, what was the copyright of your history book?
Like who made the book?
Like, what year was it made? Was it
Uh,
updated?
depends on the book. I mean, for me, well, when I went to, let's say, when I went to Mount Nittany, when I went up to Penn State area, State College area school district, we had brand new textbooks. In Williamsburg, like where I graduated from high school, there depended on the class. Sometimes we got new textbooks, but you know, maybe like 2015, 2014, 13. But then we had other books like science books. I remember we had a science book in biology class that was probably 2001. You know, and you gotta think that's like a 14-year-old textbook. And then we had English books that were copyrighted in 1990s. You know,
Yeah,
so
that
that's
was when I was going to school, but early '90s, mid '90s. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if they're not updated, like it's. I guess I don't know how that. Who sits down and actually makes the school curriculum is in the government? Is there
uh,
like is there
Department of Education.
Department of Education? So they gotta grind and find money and do things. I get that, but I just think those are one of the things that shouldn't we like say, we need to put a lot of money in education.
Mhm.
We need to do that.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of money should go to education because, you know, I think that's very important. I think education's probably the like I said, I don't know. When I think about education, I think about healthcare. Those are like two things, because if you have healthy citizens that, you know, they're not afraid of like what their bills, like their bills are, to stay alive, and then also if you have citizens that are smart, I think you're going to have a very productive society, because you're going to have people that are healthy and you're going to have people that are very productive, because with education and knowledge comes, you know, they'll be able to take advantage of more opportunities, you know.
Yeah,
So
they're going to be, and like you said, retaining information and recognizing is the big part. That's what I focused a lot in my youth of it, is recognizing your potential and working with every person that's in your life, whether it's the school, the parents, working with them people to reinforce what you are good at, double and triple down that on that, and work at the things that you don't like to do, and you slide that in there by basically tricking them,
mhm,
saying, you know, you have to be able to do, just like a parent would say, if you don't do this, you're not doing that. If you don't clean your room, you're not going to the movies Friday. But
mhm.
you do it in a more positive, slide it in there and say, and then as you work on their weaknesses and get them to understand that those weaknesses are going to make your strengths stronger, but you celebrate and teach them how to recognize that is an opportunity for me. I need to really think
Hmm.
about this and talk about it, and and put my all into when you got an opportunity.
Right. And yeah, I think you're absolutely correct when it comes to everything you just said there. And like I said, for me, the biggest thing is we just have a generation of people growing up now where like they, well, I mean, it's not just my generation. It's people older than me. That they like the education system failed them in a lot of ways, and there's opportunities that they never knew that they could take advantage of, and it's hard for them to gain and garner new skills because this is something I was talking about when I was at work the other day. Is like, I'm getting an opportunity to get my CDL and stuff, and they're giving me this stuff, but they said, well, you lack experience, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, how am I supposed to get the experience if you won't let me do it? It's one of those type deals. It's like, uh, you lack the age old argument. You lack experience, and then you say, well, how am I supposed to get experience if you won't let me get it? You
Right.
know,
And that's a big problem too. I would think, like me, I'm looking for like anything that I'm doing, there's people around you, because you can't, you need things, and you're speaking on a job perspective, which is pretty much the same thing.
No, it is the same thing because, like I said, because half the time we're like I said, we criterize everybody and say like you need this and you need that. But like, man, I'm just looking like if I'm ever an employer for a business, I'm looking for people willing to work and learn.
Yeah,
Because if you're willing to
people willing
work
to
and
work.
learn, and if you're really into it, right? If you really want the thing, then you're gonna put in extra effort. You're gonna put in extra work to learn the stuff or become better at it. Especially if you're going to take advantage of an opportunity. So for
Hmm.
me, I'm looking for the person who's going to walk up to my door, knock on it, and say, "Hey, I want this opportunity. Come,
Right.
like what do I have to do?" And then as soon as you tell them what they need to do, they start jumping through the hoops because that will get you, I think, a million times further than some guy who said, I got the degree for this or something like that. I just think it speaks volumes.
Yeah, I'm throwing people into the fire, man. Like you want to do it, and it's just a thing of, like, obviously if a person doesn't have experience, you never wanted to
Just
say
throw
to
them in
them,
there. But I mean, at the
you
same
want to have, you want to surround. It's like a kid, goes back to football. A kid that doesn't have much experience, and I'm worried about him protecting himself. What I do is put him on the defensive line, in the middle line, surrounded by a bunch of big dudes. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying?
You're like, all
That's
right,
how you. That's
they'll
how you
learn you.
protect. Yeah, that's how you protect the kid on 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 doing that. So you put experienced people around him and say, get your experience, learn everything, and I'm not going to stop, get in your way, because you. I mean, it doesn't make any sense though. When is anybody that went to get their license like that? When did they get the experience?
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's well, people that are getting a driver's license, they get experience from like the permit because they get the permit and then they have to drive around with somebody in the car until they've driven for like I think it's like 6 months. You have to have a permit for 6 months until you get your license. But in that time, you don't actually technically. I mean, they have a log book and stuff, but they don't count that. They're saying, yeah, you had it for 6 months. All right, come take the driver's test. It's basically how it
Right.
goes. I
Yeah, that's, I don't know. Maybe that sounds like some job politics. Like maybe, like, you know how it go. It could be anything. Why they're just saying things. They can't obviously deny it.
Yeah, right. But
You
they just
know.
say, well, you lack the experience, and then you have to just keep. I don't know. Like it's just something I've noticed because like it's a screwed up system where you have people that the education system fails. So again, you don't know how to take advantage of opportunities half the time, and you're
That's
not
key.
aware of all the opportunities, and also there are things in your knowledge base that you lack. Things about the real world and how it works and the mechanics of it that you need to know in your everyday life, but was never taught to you. And then once you get out of school, then you're walking around and you're looking for jobs, you're looking for ways to elevate yourself, whether it be from post-secondary education to a job, yada yada yada. And once you get out of college, even as you get out of college, there are people who are going to say to you that you lack experience, and they're going to use that as an excuse to pay you less or whatever, and you say, okay, that's fine, whatever. But at the same time, they're going to use that excuse, and then whatever it comes like moving up in the corporate ladder or moving up into a different job or going into a different field of study, if say you're a scientist or whatever, they're going to say, well, you lack experience. And it's saying, well, how am I supposed to get experience if no one's going to let me get it? And then they're like, well, you're just going to have to get it somewhere else. Well, who's going to give it to me? Because the next place I'm going to go to, they're going to say, well, I lack experience. It's a very frustrating thing.
Yeah, you got to make your bones in anything. I get it. I understand it. It would be me, like, it would be the process of, like you just said, noticing those type things and that would go to the management of being, does the management want go-getters and hard workers, or do they want ass kissers?
Yeah, right, exactly. And you know what? That's a subject for a different day. I want to move on to talk about Tiger Woods. Not particularly me, because I just want to laugh. The one thing I did want to bring up was the picture that I saw of Tiger Woods walking, and then there was a guy wearing the T-shirt of him with his DUI mugshot on as he walked by, and I thought
that's a meme.
It was the funniest thing I seen ever. Just like he's like walking, he's all excited, and then like there's that shirt like right there, right behind him. But
he can say, yeah. What do you? You're on that other side of the rope wearing that fucking shirt, weirdo. I just won the Masters.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can brag about it now. Yeah,
that's the meme I got. You know the ones that say, I'm feeling cute. I might go blah blah blah. I don't know. It has that, and it says I'm feeling his picture, his mugshot. I'm feeling cute today. I might go win the Masters. I don't know.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
But I'm asking you. So, what does it mean for Tiger to come out here swinging, so to speak, and get this again after what? I mean, this has been 12 years.
12 years, yeah. It's to me, I love a great comeback story, no matter what it is. No matter if this happened to anybody else that had so much dominance, it's a teaching moment for the youth also, to teach them that, like, when anybody like troubled people, to say, look, he went through this, he made mistakes, cheating on your wife, all that stuff. They, just tore his legacy down, all those injuries he went through, and he was able to come back on the other side, which there's not too many people that could have did that at any level. Can we think of anything like and we know golf is not but it's still considered a sport. To me it is too, though. But like, can we think of anybody that actually had a comeback like that?
Like, came back from something crazy? I mean, we could say James Conner, but James Conner didn't like win a Super Bowl with the Steelers, to come back from that. Eric Berry. Eric Berry's a good story, because he had cancer, beat cancer, and came back and played like a Pro Bowl season the next year, Pro Bowl selecting season. So I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, to beat cancer and then come back out and play at a high level and then get selected to a Pro Bowl.
Very, very impressive. It is very impressive to be at the height at your profession, especially when it's something physical, and something physical takes you down. And have, like, Eric's one of those guys in the football league too that everybody loves. He plays hard. He's not one of those me. He's like, it's team football. I was kind of upset to see him get cut, but they got to make business decisions. But he's one of those guys that you root for. Me personally, I don't even like Tiger as a person.
Yeah,
I like the story.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like the story. The story of a guy who was like, what was it, last year or 2 years ago the DUI thing happened?
I think that was, maybe like 3 years ago, something like that. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, he got the DUI thing. You see that mugshot, he just looks a sight in that picture.
Right.
He just looks a sight.
He looks like he was on some pills, like some Xannies. Like he just took a couple bars Xannies and was like, let me go drive in my $2 million Ferrari or something.
And then like the cops were like, what are you doing, Tiger? And he's like, you caught me. And he's like, let's go take this picture. And then like by the time he took the picture, he was coming down from his trip. So he was just staring at the camera like,
Or he was acting like, you ever see The Wolf of Wall Street?
no, I haven't.
All right, well, there's a scene in there where Leonardo DiCaprio, who's playing the Wolf of Wall Street, he takes some old pills, like from the '80s, and they didn't kick in, like they were stored, so they didn't kick in right. And he ate way too many of them, and he wilded out, and he was trying to get in his car, and his legs wouldn't work. That's probably how Tiger was when they caught up to him, because I couldn't imagine them taking to jail if he wasn't acting like like
Out of
we
control.
can't, we have to do something about that,
Right.
you
But
know.
this,
Or just in saying that, like, the other side of that is, yo, he was condemned also as just being a piece of shit,
yeah,
like cheating on your wife, you know. When that plays out in the public and you're that high out, he lost sponsorship, support. People, they wouldn't even show him on in his rounds of golf that he was playing until he fought his way back. And I think just a teachable moment for people. If you fuck up, that doesn't mean you
your
just
life's
gotta,
over.
you can't have a fuck up. You can't do something. If it's anything that's not acceptable, like what we say, like, basically like doing things to children and murder and stuff like that, all those non-forgivable sins in my eyes. I mean, I know you got to forgive, but non-forgivable sins. But if it's not something like that, you just fucked up. Don't dwell. Don't lay in that shit. Get up, own your truth, brush your shit off, and get back to work. That's what I see it as.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I think that's a good that's a good point you just made. Like I said, the story of somebody who who messed up. It's not by like tragedy. It's not like something happened out of his control. By his own control of his own decisions, he fucked up, but he went back and took control of the situation, fixed his life up.
Yeah.
You know,
So you
that's a
know,
winner story right there.
got another green jacket. Still a douchebag to me, but
Whatever.
I,
You're just a
I don't even
douchebag with a
like
green jacket.
Roethlisberger.
You're just a douchebag with a green jacket now.
Yeah, five of them. You
Five
got
of them.
five. You got five green jackets. So, in which, it puts him. He finally passed Arnold Palmer. They were tied. Now he's ahead. Now he needs one more to tie the greatest golfer of all time, which is Jack Nicholson, and I think he needs a couple more majors to tie him too. So just think about this though. I don't think anybody's been dominant in one sport, like one person sport. Maybe Roger Federer, maybe him.
What about Mayweather?
Well, yeah, but those are you can't, you can avoid fights. You
Yeah, I
can't
guess.
avoid golf matches and tennis matches. You got to
Yeah.
play whoever's there. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, his domination, that he's up there at the league and he hasn't won anything in 12 years. He's been struggling to get back. Just imagine if none of that happened, where would he be at, right? What was his numbers be like?
Mm.
So he was dominant at his time. So he's 43 now. So when he was at 31, before all this stuff happened, and we'll say 29, 30, he was on route to be like, like the best golfer. They should
Ever.
have checked. Yeah, they should have just checked him
And he had a
for.
lot of hype. He had so much hype that they, like I said, weren't there games named after him? Like EA made us like golf games, and they, instead of calling it like PGA Tour, they called it like Tiger or something.
Yeah, Chagger World or some shit. Yeah, he was dominant. There's not too many people. I think it was just Roger Federer. He was dominant. He was so dominant that Pete Sampras too. I used to watch them. Oh my gosh, there was like nobody. They were just running through everybody for like 10 years. You know? So I just like seeing stories like that because you can use it as inspiration. I use it as inspiration because I looked at that and I was like, wow, look what he came back from, because I even counted it out. I was like, yo, I don't even know what Tiger's doing. He might as well just retire and just license his name out, make some golf clubs or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Make some clubs or whatever and call it a day.
but he did it.
Yeah.
So
So now he kind of bet on himself. He's gonna up his brand.
yeah, he's yeah. Today his phone is filled with offers, all those endorsements. He's gonna make a nice pretty bag going forward.
Yeah. So another thing you said you wanted to touch on was we want to talk about social media as a
Oh yeah, yeah.
possible an addiction, and I wanted to say something about it. You know, how many times I in a day will pick up my phone, click the Facebook app icon, and
Mm.
scroll through it, and and it just do it. You know, like there's times like you just pick up your phone and start looking at it, and it's not even like a conscious thing. You literally are just doing it. You're just picking it up and looking at it. Like, oh, I need to check my phone. Oh, I need to check my phone. What's on there? What's the notification? I haven't seen it in a while. What's this? And so it really leads Koreans, I think, to the idea of like social media in and of itself is kind of like an addiction, or
Yeah.
something like that, or a bad habit, if at
Well,
most.
yeah, it's a behavioral addiction. That's what psychs call it. People that treat actual like physical addictions, like drugs and whatnot, they say
Oh,
it.
behavior,
Yeah,
right? Like what was it? What were examples I gave? Video games. The people that like have addictions to like eating certain foods, sex addicts, the people like to masturbate, like things like that, like
yeah,
constantly.
Deb. So you should really check on that masturbation behavioral.
Masturbation. I gotta check on that. Video games, my sex addiction, my eating couch cushions addiction. It's probably the worst of all of them, to be honest with you. I eat couch cushions at least 3 times a day.
but
Um,
but there was a oh yeah, what were you saying?
that's
I'm
why
sorry.
that's why I'm so hungry whenever I see you. It's because I've just been eating couch cushions and they just don't fill you up.
You need some
I need some
you
real
need
food.
some milk. You need
He
some
needs
milk.
some milk. He needs some milk.
Yeah, and what they're saying is like there's certain those behavior ones that you just mentioned, and like it's not an addiction that you're gonna go steal your grandma's jewelry and sell to get to pay to get on an app. You're not gonna do that, but everything that you have, like I thought about it when I was, and it brings me to this guy, what you guys should check out. I think his book is excellent. It's Cal Newport. He's a professor at Georgetown. And what does he do? He's a tech guy. He's in the program, and this is interesting to me, being into tech and all that. And he has never joined a social media site. So I said, let me check it out. So I, got the download, was listening to the talking, whatever the fuck, what do they call that?
Audiobooks.
Audiobooks. I was listening to that, and then what he was saying, it was like, yeah, he was like, try it. He said, put your phone down for just try a week and see what happens. See where your mind goes, because it's not about being social on there. No, you're not being social. You're actually affecting
Social ability.
your pride, your depression and all that, and all kinds of things, because you're looking through stuff that really has no bearing on your life.
Hmm. Yeah, and sometimes too, even feeds your insecurities and stuff like. I know
Yeah.
that's one thing. Like women, especially, will say about it. Like they'll get on there, and I know it's definitely the same for men. Like I've seen dudes like doing stuff. I'm like, man, like that. Look at this guy getting it and doing this, man. I wish I could do whatever the fuck he's doing. Just same way with like women are on there and they see like a girl like, man, she's got better thighs or something, or she's got nicer hands or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. She got
or
a
a,
brighter
or a
smile.
booty, or a girl going
Like a
on
big
there. I
booty.
mean, if
Yeah, you're
you're
right.
not, oh, go ahead.
Let's say no, you're right. Yeah, like looking at her butt, she's like, man, that girl's got a nicer butt than me. Oh, that girl's got a nicer smile. Like shit like that. I don't. You see it all day.
And if you're not making money through that, like a model, what the hell is going on your mind that you're half dressing, going on your social media page and doing it just for likes?
Yeah, exactly. It's
That is crazy. That is
like
crazy.
it's validation. Really, it's an addiction to validation. You need some because it's instant gratification is what people have said. Like when you post that picture up and like all these people like it, it almost encourages you to keep posting the stuff.
Dopamine's coming out of your
Yeah,
brain. I
right.
get it,
Yeah, right.
because if we do a show and we get all kinds of crazy feedback, and dopamine's going to be released, we're probably going to be like, yo, we gotta chase the energy of that show.
So we
Yeah.
gotta do it crazier next time or something like that. Like we're gonna get so motivated. So please like the shit out of this video so we get like the maximum amount of
Yeah.
motivation. But I mean,
So
it's
I
like
could get geeked.
it's a positive light though because you can't have behavioral addictions that are positive. You know, you really can. I think that's the beauty of behavioral addictions is like, and some people can have addictive personalities.
Mm-hmm.
You know that like whenever they start doing something, it becomes like
They're
an
going,
addiction. Yeah, like they just go into it.
and
So
you're just hoping it's nothing that can take you down.
yeah, that's the thing about that the addictive personalities that's dangerous though is like it's all about like what you get into, like what people are around you, because if they bring something into your life where like it could be, you know, like it could be over, you know, like it fuck you up, like they could take you on some bad habits, like I we're robbing people and like they're like, man, this is fun. It's like, all right, let's do this more, let's steal shit all the time and yada yada yada. Like not even
Oh
have to
yeah,
rob people, like go into stores.
kleptos.
Kleptos, yeah, I was gonna say kleptos. People that have like addictions, like stealing shit for no reason. They're just like, yeah, man, I just the thrill. I just have to steal shit.
And you think about it, like going into the way he was saying it, it made me think like, um, going into like what this phone is to me is like our religious people out there that go by the Bible. It just popped up in my head because I always thought about this, but this kind of confirmed it to me. Like he wasn't saying that, but it went into my brain and made me say that. Was like, right, like you're walking around with this thing. It is a great tool, but it's really like the closest thing to the mark of the beast without putting that chip that they talk about in putting in your hand, the mark and all that, and where you can't buy or sell or whatever, however that goes. I don't know exactly the wording, but it's pretty much that. That's what pretty much this is. They're not saying you can't do it. It's just it's more convenient. It's more addictive to saying, why should I go to the bank when I can just take picture of my check? Why should I go have that interaction when I can just, you know, get online, take a picture of something, sell it on one of these sites, or have a not have a store where I'm communicating with customers, you know, getting information and being social when I just can do because you don't have to leave your home.
You don't have to leave your house. Yeah, and that was something I've noticed is I got this new job where like, you know, I can't be on my phone. I'm out doing things all the time. So there's days where like I spend zero. I probably spend and the only time I'm on my phone is looking at GPS. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so like I spend maybe during the because you know when I didn't have this job, I might have spent, you know, 4, 5, 6 hours on my phone.
Woo!
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Well, incrementally throughout the day, if you think about it.
They say the average is 2 hours. Am I like we were doing averages the other day? Average American spends 2 hours.
Yeah, but I'm saying
Ooh,
like
Deb,
think about it for
you're
a
a
second.
tweaker.
Think about it for a second though. Like throughout the day, you turn it on, you watch a video, you turn it off. And I'm not saying just being on your phone. Like I'm saying like what if you let it play, you're doing something like that, right? Like you sit it down, you're playing a video, or you're watching it, and then you walk away. And it's like you're in the kitchen listening to it or whatever. Does that count as being on your phone?
I think they mean, yeah. Well,
Maybe they mean
I
like
don't
just being
know.
on your phone, being on your phone. Because
I
if that's
think
the
they
case, if we're not counting that, then probably for me it would be 2 hours a
Yeah,
day.
it sounds about right with me. I'll sit and scroll. Like yesterday, I watched probably like 30 videos through the feed of Facebook about, you know, interactions with cops where that was just stupid. Like it would
Mhm.
everybody, you know how people go up and be like, I know my rights. Either they got arrested or the cop was just acting stupid. Those type things. I looked up and I was on my phone for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it starts you down a rabbit hole
That's
almost.
crazy. So what I'm gonna do is though, because obviously we have to be on our phones and use social media sites to promote, you know, what we're doing, and things like that,
But it's a
and to
tool, though.
look for information. But the one thing that I found interesting too, that they said Apple gives you the times, like how long you've been on it for the day,
Mm.
and Android and like Google, which is Google owned base. Google don't want you to know that time. Their business model is wrapped around you hopping on.
looking for something, and Facebook and stuff like that. Instagram was smart because you need that camera and that phone to work your Instagram.
Yeah. Well, I'm just being honest with you. I don't care.
You don't care if somebody
Eh,
took
eh,
your phone, you wouldn't tweak.
no. Like the time, like
Uh,
about the time, like if it's like popping up the time, it's like because in my head I know how much I've been on my phone today. Like you know what I mean? Like in the back of my head, it clicks off like a timer. Like you know what I mean? Like you've been on this way too much today. But like I'm not gonna. It's like one of those things like some people do like. I don't know, like veganism or something. Like it's like that thing where
mhm.
they say, "Oh man, I can't eat these products ever," and they're conscious about their diet. But to me, it's like, dude, I'm just gonna eat this piece of chicken. Like I'm eating it. This is what's happening. This is what's going on, and I don't give much thought outside of that. Just like how a lot of people don't think about those things. You know.
Yeah, I think but it would surprise, like, there's if there was other variables to that, like
Mm.
saying, oh, no, like if you seen that you were on your phone for 4 hours in a day, and maybe you are taking too long on getting a business started, and
Mm-hmm.
and if you they seen that, it could be like, this could be one of the reasons and most of the shit I'm looking at has nothing to do with something that I need to do right now to move
Mm-hmm.
forward with my life. I think is more what they were saying. I don't think they were saying it. He's saying it in the manner like, you the stuff, the most of the time you're spending on there is not helping you in life if you realize and cut some of that time and use it as the tool it's meant to be. And instead of just like when the hammer was made, instead of just using the tool to make your life easier, you're just going around with a hammer banging shit, like addicted to just hitting shit with a hammer. What are
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah, right. Well, another thing I was going to say about this, and this is probably my last thing I'll say on it, is it does give people it makes us feel very, like I said, we're not connected as often. This all goes back to like, well, why we do this show is because people are always they're not having the conversations, the face-to-face conversations. They're not seeing the people. Like I said, when I started this job and stuff, and I started going out and seeing people, I'm my social self. I'll go into stores and be just like talking to the lady at the front counter, making jokes. Like yesterday I went to Dunkin' Donuts and I was like saying, your muffins are bad, by the way, and she's like, well, that's because you had a blueberry one. The chocolate chip ones are this, and it's like a conversation. You felt, like two people. Even though I never met the chick in my life, she's just the chick that works at the cashier at Dunkin' Donuts. She's like, let's have a conversation, because you know what it is. It's like we're zombies. We want to minimize the social contact all the time. Like we go to the front counter, it's like, hi. Like sometimes we don't even say anything. We check out and we leave. And that's
No.
why self checkouts are winning. Because there's people
Yeah.
out there that like they're so desensitized to social interaction because of the era we live in that they rather go to the self checkout instead of go to the person and be like, how are you today? Oh, that's good, glad to hear, because they're like, I don't even want to talk to that person. you know
Right. It's going to make it easier for the transition for the AIs to take over the world because we're already out here acting like them. We're
Yeah.
not
Well,
even talking.
what was I gonna say? Is like the only time you really need to use self checkout if you're buying like, I don't know, something crazy that like nobody needs to know that's what you're buying. Know what I mean?
Your
Like you're
girl
buying
sent you
something where
on a
it's like,
mission.
but then all at the same time, I would love to buy some crazy shit and then just hand it up to her, weird order, and then be like, yeah, and then draw
What?
attention to it.
Hold on. Let's delve into this. What are you saying that you can't go into the
I
store
don't
and
know. We'd
hand
have,
to the clerk? You gotta. Nah.
well,
We
I got
gotta
to think
delve
about
into
it.
that.
You have.
Before we could get off of this, though, tell me what you're embarrassed about going up to the clerk and handing her. I want to know the the
Well, for
limit of your
what? Well,
embarrassment.
let's see here. So, what I'm embarrassed about getting up to the clerk and like having to buy,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like if you had like you were constipated, like having to walk up and buy like fucking like laxatives or some shit. Like you like walk up, but that's the only thing you buy. That would be like kind of like embarrassing. It's like oh yeah, I just bought some laxatives. But at the same time, because if you put it with other shit, she's not gonna notice the laxatives, right?
Uh huh.
I don't know why. For a second, I thought about like if somebody went and bought like dildos and stuff. I'm like, they're not selling those at Walmart. So like, if you go, so like, no
They
matter
might.
what, you
They
can't
might.
be embarrassed. You're going to adult world. You know what I mean? Like everything in there is sexual. If you're going to buy one of those, and if not, you're ordering off the internet, which is another thing that's again beating that system because like I said, people rather order shit offline now, you know, because also it's cheaper sometimes, but also because, you know, like you don't have to have that conversation with the clerk. You know?
Only thing I go into the store and be embarrassed about is when the lady of your life tells you to go get some feminine products.
Oh yeah.
I hate that look I get. I hate it. That's the only thing I
Someone
really
gives you
get.
a look.
I would rather go get a dildo. I could have fun with that. What can I say about that? You can't laugh about. You can't make a joke about
Yeah,
that,
well, yeah,
especially if it's a female one. She's gonna be like, "What?"
yeah, no. I mean, for me, that's not nearly as embarrassing because I would just be like, yeah, like this is for like I mean, like someone could look at me like, what the fuck are you looking at? Like this is for my girlfriend or this is for my wife or hell, if your fucking my fucking sister was like, I need these, I can't drive, I can't. I'm like Jesus, like I'll pick it up, whatever. You know what I mean? I've been in that situation before. Yeah, it's not nothing to me. It's just like whatever. Like it's my business. You just
But
stay out of it.
laxatives.
But I don't. Yeah, like I said, like, laxatives. Like I don't know, man. Like I don't. People don't need to know like I can't shit.
Oh my
It's like, bro.
god.
No. People don't need to know that I'm full of shit.
Yeah.
People
So
don't need to know that.
basic, yeah, that's just basically what it is. The whole premise of this is what this guy is saying, and I think it's pretty interesting. It's going to make me do some thinking about just basically getting rid of some of the stuff that I check on my social media that I don't need, and just utilizing the time to get more things done and being more social, because I think that we're kind of helping the AIs get in charge, because people are saying, "Oh, if I got a robot that's never going to interact with me, it's just going to do whatever I say at the business I run." You know what I mean? It's just going to do everything, or there's the self checkout. I don't have to deal with problems, and you know, that's how it's going to be sold. Like people are going to go gravitate towards that if you don't interact with people. And I think, like you said, this is why we do the show. People aren't having those conversations. So when you're out in public, you don't know how to act. You're socially awkward.
Yeah, right.
You don't know how to act. You cause problems. It turns into bad situations because people can't have a grown men conversation or grown women conversation because they cut themselves off by not doing the normal social shit.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, hey, that's what we're about here. So, ladies and gentlemen, bridging the gap.
Bridge
Uh,
the gap.
Bridging the gap.
Oh
We
shit,
bring
bro!
out the we bringing out
Need some
that
water
jingle.
on that.
We put some water. We need some sparkles, some little bit of something on there, man. Something to spice it up.
You see auto tune.
Auto
T-Pain
tune.
that shit.
Put some auto tune on it.
I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
fucking.
But like I said, hey, that's what we're here for. So leave those comments in the comment section. We do read your comments, ladies and gentlemen. So leave your comments down there. You know, leave a little comment at the beginning of the show, at the end of the show, wherever you're at in the show. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. Coach, you got anything else for us tonight?
Nah, that's it. Go socialize, you crazy motherfuckers.
Go out there and talk to somebody today. Complete strangers. Say hi to them. Do it. Do something crazy. Say something crazy. All right, nothing too crazy. You don't want to weird nobody out. But as always, stay beautiful. Take care of yourselves. Bridging the gap. We're out of here. See ya.